Walter Nelson's career included 56 years at Eberhardt Co, a real estate advisory firm in Minneapolis.
He began his career in the industry in the late 1920s when he was in high school. He worked part-time for the investment department in St. Paul of Equitable Life Assurance Society. And in his career with Eberhardt, Eberhardt did a number of things. They used to use the tagline full-service real estate. And primarily in the 40s and 50s and 60s, that meant both residential and commercial real estate financing, real estate brokerage, property management.
He later purchased the company and served as its president and chairman until 1995.
Well, Eberhardt was a great company to work for, and of course Walter set the tempo for it. And he wanted us to be well-dressed, he wanted us to drive a clean car, he wanted us to be polite. He taught us a lot of things. One of the things I always remember him emphasizing was we're going to under-promise and over-deliver.
Walt was extremely active in community and industry service.
A strong characteristic that people think of when they think of my dad is his very deep involvement both in community activities and in industry activities.
Of course, when he was president of the Mortgage Bankers Association, and I would say Marge Nelson, because Marge Nelson, his wife, was with him all the time at these conventions and traveling, doing all this stuff, were very friendly, nice, good-looking people, and just made these relationships happen. And everybody wanted to be a friend of Walter Nelson and Marge Nelson, and they wanted to, if the Twin Cities, they knew they were great people. There were other great people here too, but they really generated, and he generated a lot of business for Eberhardt because we had those contacts that nobody else had. And of course in the community, he was chairman of everything.
One of the things I remember he was deeply involved in was service as chairman of the board of Minnesota Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Most meaningful to Walter was his recognition by Johnson High School.
My dad was selected for that honor in 1985, basically for his community and business achievements. And of all of the things that gained him recognition and so on, I think the honor from Johnson High School probably meant as much or more to him as anything else he achieved.
Walter was also instrumental in moving professional sports downtown.
When the Metrodome, or the big new stadium, was proposed for moving out of Metropolitan Stadium, one of the main objections was, where are people going to park? People were used to parking at the Metrodome. And Walter Nelson was the president of the Downtown Council at that time. I think it was probably 1980, somewhere in that range. He figured out that there were 3.5 times as many parking spaces downtown as there was at Bloomington. And then people said, well, still, it's going to be crowded. He said, no, the Twins play at night, the Gophers play on Saturdays, and the Vikings play on Sundays. There's only about 6 or 8 dates a year, being Thursday noon games for the Twins, where there's any conflict at all. And that had a great effect in selling the Metrodome construction, getting people to agree that, yeah, maybe it is a good place to build the Metrodome.
A brush with fame led Walter to national service.
This is 1960, and it's Eisenhower's last year in office as President of the United States. And Wally's down in Augusta, of course, playing golf at the Masters, of course, at Augusta National. And President Eisenhower happens to be down there. He spent a lot of time there in his last years as president. And they're in the men's room together. So he introduces himself to the president. And Eisenhower says, well, what do you do? And he says, well, I'm involved in mortgage banking and housing in Minneapolis and housing for all kinds of people. And Eisenhower says, well, do you have a card here? I'd like to get a hold of you sometime. And so, oh, sure. So he gives him a card. And I don't know, sometime later he calls, he says, I'm going to make you chairman of the White House Conference on Aging. Walter, of course, loved that because he liked being in the limelight like anybody else, and it was a great honor.
He used to say to me, our reputation has saved us a lot more times than our balance sheet, and that was certainly true. And so much of what he was able to accomplish was the fact that people really trusted him and had faith in his personal integrity.
I think he'd say that. And get involved in the community, get involved on committees. It's worth it. You'll enjoy it, and it'll be good for you and good for the communities. I think that's what he'd say.
The thing that stood out as personal characteristics, not only of my dad but my mother as well, was the positive attitude and the optimism they had about interaction with other people and the experiences that life brought them. That was a great standard.
Please congratulate Walter Nelson, 2016 award recipient of the Minnesota Real Estate Hall of Fame.